Here we are. The cat, the producers arrived. The bees are buzzing. The mosquitoes as big as dinner plates. This is their era post-flood. So what are we going to discuss today after last week's disaster? Well, you can see the background's a little bit more pleasant, but unfortunately the topic isn't more pleasant. It's a little bit even more distressing than last week, and the topic is the continuing powerful role the legacy media plays in Australia. Now, a lot of people think that the legacy media is irrelevant in Australian society in 2022. The legacy media, and what I mean by the legacy media, is the old print media, the old free-to-air television, the old radio stations, FM as well as AM, is the fact that to a significant degree nothing has changed since the 1960s, when a handful of corporations and individuals owned the means of communication in this country. In many regards, things have got worse. And they've got worse because the Australian Broadcasting Corporation has been muzzled by changes in legislation and by being starved of funds and by a growing tsunami of self-censorship. At the same time, social media, whether it's Muskie's Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, is now basically owned by a handful of individuals and corporations or by state players. So that great idea initially that the social media would break the monopoly, the legacy media was able to enforce on thinking in a community has not come to fruition. And the main reason it hasn't come to fruition is that social media, like the legacy media, is basically, in Australia at least, privately owned. And their major purpose is to create ever-increasing profits for the individuals who own them or the shareholders who own publicly listed legacy media companies. So what does that mean? I'll give you a simple example. There's only one national newspaper in this country. That's the Australian. It is owned by the Murdoch family. And the Australian newspaper has never made a profit in its life. It's been around for almost 60 years. It's never made a profit. Not even 1 cent profit. But it has made major profits for Murdoch in terms of placing pressure on Parliament to ensure that the media imbalance, which has been part and parcel of this country's politics and culture, continues ad nauseum. And that's where the profit is made. It's not made directly, but indirectly. It's the same with the free-to-air television stations and their news programs and privately owned radio stations as well as community-owned radio stations. Because ultimately, everybody in this country takes its lead from the print media. Whether it's the Age and Channel 9, whether it's the various banners or mastheads which are owned by Murdoch Press. They are the only organisations which actually provide news. Everybody else provides analysis. Not only do they provide analysis, but they use the print media as their primary source of information, and much more importantly, their primary sources of stories for the day. So if you listen to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation or watch the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or go on social media in its various guises, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and the list goes on and on, you'll find the major topic of discussion is the topic which is raised by the print media that morning. Everybody else provides analysis, viewpoints, but does not actually provide news. And the print media continues to provide that news on a daily basis, which then shapes the discussion regarding events, not only in the community but in the political sphere, where it's the local, state or federal level. And that's the strength of the legacy media. It continues to determine what is and isn't important in society at a particular point in time. It's the legacy media which is actually able to set that cultural agenda, community agenda, and political agenda, because it is able to publish on a regular basis, and whether it makes a profit or not becomes irrelevant in the long term. What is relevant to them is the fact that they're actually able to influence community thinking regarding various topics, and that means they're able to influence political parties and their policies, and they're able to influence governments in terms of the legislative agenda which is put forward. That is why nothing ever seems to change in Australian society. There never seems to be any forward thinking. It's always backward thinking. You may remember the fact that over 1 million children living in poverty in this country, which is extraordinary when you think how rich this country potentially is. And you may not even realise that this country's resources are owned, managed, exploited by a handful of corporations and individuals, and that the exploitation of these resources does not mean that there is resources available to tackle even basic issues like childhood poverty in this country. And this is reinforced by a media which is owned by that 1% that own the means of production, distribution, exchange and communication. So it's all very well to jump on your high horse about a particular issue, but if that particular issue, like public housing, is not taken up by the legacy media, although groups like ours take them up, they're almost irrelevant. They're so marginalised that they are irrelevant, because most people's information, primary source of information, is not social media, although most people turn to social media for their primary source of information, because much of the material that is on social media takes a lead from the print media. And it's the same with television, it's the same with radio. You know, various methods of communication, whether it's broadcast or podcast, again, The running comes from the print media. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation in Australia in 2022, that issues which should have been resolved in the 1950s continue to fester. Whether it's our relationship with this country's First Nations people, whether it's our relationship with the social security system, whether it's the ideas which are generated in the community which somehow think that people on social security are less than somebody who has a job and pays taxes. And the list goes on and on. Because these issues are primarily issues that need to be debated. Now, if the print media is owned by a handful of corporations and individuals, well, then nothing which interferes with their profits will ever be debated. Or if it is debated, it is debated in a negative sense. And when you look at public housing, all the stories you see are negative stories. Now, obviously, public housing provides a huge benefit and leg up to many people and has historically been the social elevator, as we've seen with the Prime Minister, Mr Albanese, who was brought up by a single mother in public housing. It's been that stability which has allowed their caregivers the ability for their children to move on in life. If you don't have a roof over your head, you don't have that ability. It's very simple. So instead of having huge campaigns regarding the housing crisis revolve around the establishment of public housing, all we have in 2022 is stories about private housing, about interest rates, about how people have to, knuckle under with increasing interest rates, and that the only mechanism by which people can obtain housing is through the private sector. And if you can't obtain housing through the private sector, then you need to rent through the private sector. There's no discussion about the positive aspects of public housing. And what that means is then governments privatise public housing and introduce policies which extend the reach of public housing. And also, this all comes back to the fact there is no debate. There is no thinking about particular subjects. There is no community focus on what should be important. So community focus becomes focused on the marginal, the inconsequential, the big story which appears today and disappears tomorrow, which wasn't a story at all. It focuses around current affairs, which is not interested in providing solutions, but more interested in blowing up the situation in order to get more eyeballs. It's the same in social media. Social media is about advertising. It's all about advertising. That's how Mr Musk will make a profit after spending $68 billion buying Twitter and firing half the staff. Will make a profit by using your information to enrich himself and the people around him. So ultimately, the private investment for private profit mantra rules the media in Australia in 2022. Now, I'm not talking about the media around the world where you've got state players who dominate the conversation because of censorship. But our censorship in this country is much more sophisticated than the censorship that you see in China, where you can't broach certain subjects, and if you do, you find yourself breaking the law and in prison. Our censorship is based on the print media setting the political, social and cultural agenda every day and refusing to take up seriously issues like our resources. Who should be profiting from the exploitation of this country's resources? Taking up issues like public housing, childhood poverty, poverty in this country, the inadequacy of the social security system. Occasionally a story breaks through, but within 24 hours it disappears. So that's the issue. The central issue is the fact that the legacy media, the print media especially, continues to set the political, social and cultural agenda. And that's why change seems to be impossible. And ultimately, because of this negativity, people become resigned to the fact that nothing will ever change. That you can't change things through community effort, you can't change things through politics, you can't change things. People become resigned, shrug their shoulders, and the same problems continue to exist and fester and grow in our community. Now ultimately, 25 million people living on a continent shouldn't be faced with the problems we are faced with today. Problems around food security, problems around health security, problems around housing security, problems regarding access to recreation for a significant section of the population, problems regarding energy security, and the list goes on and on. So it's up to you. Do you take your lead from the legacy media, especially the print media? Because if you are a player on social media, if you're a player on radio and television, the fact is that you basically are taking your lead from the Murdoch-dominated print media in this country. Now this YouTube presentation has been presented by Public Interest Before Corporate Interests, and today we had a little bit of help. We've had bees buzzing around, we've had mosquitoes as big as dinner plates which I've swallowed during the presentation. So if you live in the country, it's not all roses. Sometimes there are issues, but the important thing is there are always issues, and if we allow the print media to set the political, social and cultural agenda, we will never, never, never be able to address the problems that we face today.